Off top though, what did you think about that Meek Mill when you heard it?
Um, can I be honest with you?
Yeah, be perfectly honest. I'm gonna be honest. I'm sure the people are
My
gonna be
first,
honest in here too.
my first thoughts were honestly like, how many women are you gonna have sex with on all these records?
It's funny you say that, and we hadn't even talked about this off line. But I
We
was
haven't had.
listening to, I
We,
forgot what song on here, but I was like, at what age does a person stop using terms like bad little bitch?
I mean, it was just I was disappointed on a level because I looked at this moment for him as an opportunity to show growth because he's shown so much growth in his life. And I thought this album was going to be more reflective of it. So to hear him literally talking and using the same rhetoric as he was using when I first heard him, I was like, oh, I was like, I was a little taken aback by it, like, because the two best records on here, in my opinion, are the records with depth. Where he's not necessarily using the same, these niggas hating, I'm sleeping with her, and her
Right.
rhetoric.
Donnell Lee says, "What up, fellas? What up, Donnell Lee? Man, you tuning in again. We're gonna get into a lot today. You know, to piggyback off of that, and we spoke about this when we were talking about Drake's Certified Lover Boy. It's like this deep in the game, you expect to see a little bit of growth. I think that with the album title in itself, Expensive Pain, I don't like that album title anyway. Like, I mean that what do they call
I
it?
don't
Like
like the
rich people problems. Nobody wants to hear
first
about that.
problems, first world problems, Mike.
Yeah, like nobody, especially coming off of a pandemic. You got people out of
We not
work. It's
hold
like don't
on.
nobody
We're
want
not
to hear
coming off.
that.
We still in. We're not coming off of the
I'm
pandemic
sorry.
either. We still in.
No, you're
Yeah.
right. We're still in it. I apologize. Yeah, we're still in a pandemic, right? And yeah, it's not one of those things that people are like going to be empathized with you over. I get it. Artists got to express themselves, but I do think that in hip hop specifically, I think that's one of the pitfalls that successful hip hop artists fall into, where it's like you don't have much to talk about that you're not relatable anymore. You know what I'm saying? Donnell Lee said Meek played it safe. Same thing Drake did. His content and the album artwork were lackluster. I agree with that. When I first heard it, with the "Hate Me Now," I guess sample of a sample, a recreation, I guess I'll say. The way he delivers on these records, it's so predictable. Like the style doesn't change, the style's the same. It's like, and you're not really saying too much. And like you said, Coop, to piggyback off of what you're saying, everything that he's got involved with when it comes to criminal justice reform and just him being taken seriously as a political figure on some levels, it's like there's an opportunity here for a little bit more depth.
Okay.
Opportunity
So
squandered. Go ahead.
I'm home right now, so I want to segue. So I gave my daughter and I to have another one of our talks
Mm-hmm.
for review, and she's familiar with me, and so her take was nothing's been made since 2018 that was actually really dope as far as like anything. And I immediately thought to that, well, a lot of that has to do with his criminal problems. And here's where I realized here's where the justice system, and getting wrapped up in the justice system on whatever level hurts you as an artist. It makes you fall off in the eyes of a younger generation because this time that he spent doing this, my daughter's next thought was he's not as relevant as he used to be, and community work does not equate to relevancy. Like, as in, there are people who do community work all the time who don't get any sort of recognition. So, your community work and all that good actionable things, although they're good and they're actionable, it's not something that enhances you as an artist musically in terms of what you bring to the table for the next generation.
Well, I think you just
And
spoke to something, not to cut you off, but I think that when you're relevant for reasons outside of music, it makes it even tougher when you drop your music. Like, it helps when the music is why you're relevant, right? I think championships. What your daughter's speaking to on from 2018, I think they played it super safe with that. He had every collaboration of anybody who was anybody in 2018. They had all of the notable samples. I mean, you had "Feel It in the," not "Feel It in the Air Tonight," Phil Collins. You had "What's Beef" with Jay and Rick Ross on it. You had
Hey,
a Drake feature, which was a single. You
look,
had a Cardi B feature. Like, so that doesn't help you in the long run when in 2021 you don't have all that help.
hey, you want to know what, Mike? I was thinking when you listed those artists and those samples, I was thinking that's some expensive pain right there because that album didn't go like that.
It didn't. It was hot for a second. It kept him above water as far as, like you say, relevancy, but it wasn't something that carried over when we talk about 2018, which was a pretty heavy year hip hop wise. It's not an album that we think about off top. You know what I mean?
No, Mike, I mean, outside of Glow Up, there's nothing on there that I necessarily remember from him that I think is like high level. It was average. It was an average album.
Do you think that, and I say this respectfully, you know what I'm saying? Do you think that as an artist and as a lyricist of his generation, you think Meek Mill is slightly overrated?
After this album, I would have to lean more towards that because I think just about I think about okay, so I think about the content and what his subject matter is,
Mm-hmm.
and there hasn't been an evolution of it like we're talking about. And if you're not going to evolve with that rhetoric, you need to do it at a high level, like to bring up a past group like a Mob Deep or to bring up now Griselda. You know, if
Shout
you
out to
do
K
it, you
Thompson
do it
and
at a high level.
shout out to K Thompson in the room. He said salute to us. Donnell Lee brings up a real good point. He said artists with these big budgets can't. He said can afford to play it safe, Mike. I disagree if you meant can. I don't think they can afford to play it safe because, like you said, they got to get hits when it comes to, coming with these big budgets, big samples, big collaborations. So Meek Mill in the limelight or just the spotlight that's been put on him, for lack of a better term, he's kind of been forced to play it safe. We've never really heard Meek Mill really be able to go out there and be raw. I was just listening to ASAP Ferg's project. What was the name of that project? Anyway, he started with the song that collabed with Meek Mill. Was it not Dollar in the Dream? It'll come to me in a minute. But Meek was
Hold on.
spitting on there.
You talking about who's scared now? The off the game,
Nah,
off G piece? No,
no. ASAP Ferg. I'm about to pull it up in a second. If
I don't
somebody in the
know.
room know what it is, let me know. It was on the Jeez, I'm drawing a blank. It's like anyway. Oh yeah, it was on the Still Striving. The Still Striving mixtape, Trap in the Dream. And Meek was spitting on there. But it's like one of those things where it's like, I think Meek might actually be better in a group setting. Do I want to hear 3 verses from Meek? Because let's keep it real. The strong song that people talk about from Meek is the intro. And that's 1 verse.
I thought Glow Up was his best record. It was 2 verses, a very strong hook. It had
Mm-hmm.
a melody and a beat and an energy that was perfect. It was in the pocket form. But yeah, the intro is the record. So
I don't think that, we don't have a lot of groups, duos, and all that in this era. It's like everybody's solo dolo. And, and
that's a money.
I was talking to somebody, I was talking to my homie Brandon yesterday, I think it was, and we were talking about Nori and how Nori was in CNN and what he was like when he was doing features and collaborations. It was like, I thought Nori was nicer than I thought he was when I started hearing him with 3 verses. I mean, I say that respectfully, but it is what it is. It
No,
takes a
Mike.
special person to have to put down 3 verses. I don't know if Meek is that.
No, Mike. I mean, and people forget this. There was a time for a moment where Noriega was the hottest dude in the streets of New York.
Yeah.
And I remember all those verses that you're talking about, Mike. And also, too, I mean, his first album is a really, really dope hip hop record,
It
Mike. Like
is.
that's a really solid 4 out of 5 possibly higher. I would probably put it at like a 4.25 if we're like breaking them in quarters. And so like I tell people, it's hard. Like I keep trying to tell people, writing a rap song is one of the hardest things to do in music because of our format and how much is pressed into the format. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you take Meek's style in this format, oh, he has to do a whole lot to succeed just off on a technical basis, Mike. You know what I'm
No,
saying? Just because of his style and how rapidly the words are flowing and coming out, he has to do more writing than the average MC.
and
He's
look at his
writing.
peers. K. Thompson's just bringing up people. He said, "Where do y'all rank Meek in his class between Wiz, Wale, Big Sean, ASAP?" I don't know if you talking about Rocky or Ferg, but if we talking about music, I mean, I think the only person whose music I wouldn't put ahead of him maybe Wale, but I think Wale might make better music than me.
He does.
We could talk about Wale's single too with the whole vibrant thing and all that, but yeah, I mean, as far as full projects and you factor in the help or lack thereof, I think I like ASAP Ferg's music better than I like Meek's. I know I like ASAP Rocky's music better than I like Meek's. I like Wiz Khalifa's music more than I like Meek's, and I like Big Sean's music more than I like Meek's. And these
I
ain't
don't
even the quote
know.
unquote heavy hitters of this era that we talk about, right?
Okay, so I don't know if I love any of those guys. Like love them. And
Yeah.
so it allows me to be objective. I can't say he has a better catalog than any of the guys that you just named.
Yeah. I don't think he does.
I mean, I can't say that. Like and for some and for the way Meek has been promoted and projected, you would think I'd be able to say that off the top of my head. Is what I'm saying.
You know who I think is understated in this generation? I know people don't like him for, certain things he said and the way that he, carries himself, whatever, whatever. But ASAP Rocky, man, what he's done in his career, I don't think people really give a lot of credence to. Even that whole ASAP mob and that whole movement, that shit's on his back. He made it out of New York with a sound that wasn't New York at the time. Now it is. And got no support from New York radio or anything. It had a cult following. He still has a cult following.
No, I mean he's a cult legend status. Wouldn't you say at
Mm-hmm.
this? Yeah.
And oh yeah, Rihanna's his girlfriend.
Well, we gonna talk about all that because Rihanna came up in my daughter and I conversation. I was surprised at some things. So yeah, we gonna get off into that whole dynamic a little bit too.
I mean, Rihanna knows, you know what I'm saying? She knows that ASAP is that nigga like that. It is what it is. So I mean,
Apparently,
hmm?
because like Mike, when's the last time ASAP's done something that you would consider to be relevant? Like for us, it's probably more relevant because we're more willing to wait than my daughter's generation. But how relevant has he been in the last 5 years?
This is what I'll say about ASAP Rocky in relation to his peers. I think he's the only one that really developed and maintained a cult following. He didn't need the commercialized things to be who he is. You know what I'm saying?
Do
Like
you
that
feel that way
same,
about Travis? Do you
huh?
feel that way about Travis too?
Mm. Travis has a cult following. I think he's a little bit before Travis. I don't really put Travis with all those people that his names, but yeah, if you add Travis in there, yeah, Travis has that cult following too.
Yeah.
No, I agree. TJ said Meek killed Lemon Pepper Freestyle, but overall, I would say that he's trending towards overrated for a while. Huh. Oh, K
I'm gonna
Thompson's
lean
bringing
that
up
way.
some other good names. Mac Miller, Joey Badass, Big Crit. I have them over Meek in his class. Mm.
That's tough. Well, I'm gonna tell you what my daughter said. She said, "Falling off is falling off."
I will say this. I think that the Mac Miller is an interesting comparison because they both come from the state of Pennsylvania. They both came out around the same time. They both respectively have their following, and have
Mm-hmm.
I don't they haven't done a song together. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I
I'll
feel
put it
like they have.
I'll put it
I
this
feel like
way.
there's.
A lot of the things that, and not to interrupt you, but a lot of the things that we were knocking Meek for, not digging deep and not being, vulnerable on the mic and to the point where people feel you, Mac Miller did those things.
Okay, so I want to talk about the vulnerability or lack thereof, because you want to know what I heard. I heard somebody that's just not vulnerable as an MC at all, and I want people to understand this. But vulnerability as an artist, like needs to exist in order for a certain sort of level
I
to
think his
exist. You
style
have to.
gets in the way of that too. I think he needs to slow it down. You know what I mean?
Okay. So somebody who we're going to talk about later has kind of subtly slowed down his flow a lot over the years. He's just maintained the composition of his flow, and that's AZ. AZ raps slower than he used to, Mike, but the composition of his style is the same because he has worked on his craft and he knows how to freak it. Like the way he's rhyming on 99 Avarex, that's a beat tempo wise. It's more like more money, more murder, more homicide, like tempo wise. But he slowed down and learned how to craft it and craft his style in it differently. And Meek hasn't done that. And you're right.
You know why I think Meek goes with such a rapid flow and flashy style? Because it feels like he's not saying much.
Well, so let's get back to the vulnerability. You want to know what, Mike? When you go to the greatest MCs of all time, almost all of them have a vulnerability at some level or show a level of themselves that really makes you think or understand the person better.
Right.
I think there's some guys I don't have to explain, like Nas, like Tupac. But Mike, I mean, Ghostface made All That I Got Is You. Like Ghostface is a very poignant MC at discussing things about him. All I Got Is You is just the biggest evidence to it. And Ghost is a big braggadocio rapper. You know what I mean?
Look, yeah, you're right. We don't even
Very
have to
bold.
go all the way to Ghost. Let's look in Philly, right?
Okay.
Let's look in
Okay.
Philly. Let's look
Okay,
at
let's
what
see.
Beanie Siegel was able to make us feel. And
I
this
was-
is somebody
I
who,
was-
yeah, this is somebody who directly, Meek Mill, I mean, you have to think, you know, from the generation he's from, looked up to, right?
Mike, if you was an MC around that time period, you looked up the Beans. You didn't have to be from Philly to do that. He's nice like that.
Right. And so, I mean, even with, and I say Beans because of Beans' style, right? Like the way Beans approaches a track, and like it reminds me of how Meek Mill was doing in his battle days. When you look at those DVDs, and just stylistically, it meshes with that. And a part of Philly MCs is really making you feel what they're saying, like the emphasis on things. Like this whole
Right.
flow, let's keep it a buck, man. I'm gonna keep it all the way real on the show tonight. That's Ace Hood's flow. I don't know where that flow came from in me, but it doesn't work well with, you know, what he's trying to convey and his overall growth.
You could be right, but you also said something about like how Philly cats rap. Like, and a lot of people don't even understand this about Thought. Like Thought is one of the great enunciator and finishers of bars. Like when Thought finishes a bar, boom. You know what I'm saying? It's just he's so stylistic and so lyrical, you miss it. But Thought punches the mic.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's a Philly thing. You know what I'm saying? Even from its most, you know, culturally and artistically diverse MC. No. He still be punching the mic.
Right.
Like that's what they do. You know what I'm saying? They're going to come and hit it, even if it's going to be stylistic. And so there's ways to craft it. And so it's funny that we keep having this conversation. It just sounds like he hasn't worked on his craft, Mike.
No.
And we've been having this conversation about practice way too much this year with like cats that we know got talent. It just sounds like he's not doing it as often. And it's like, and that goes to another thing of a level of greatness. It's like, oh, well, you can pull that off when you're a certain level of great and have these other endeavors and affairs, but that's never been him. And so
maybe he just doesn't have it.
Right. He doesn't have what Scarface has or Ghost has or Nas or Pac. I mean, even Big on Sky's the Limit. Miss you. You know what I'm saying? Everyday struggle.
Yeah.
You know, like even Jay when he talking about hustling, he got Friend or Foe. He got The Evils. Mike, those are really personal records. They some hustling ass records, but they personal.
Yeah. And just for the style and the story, because that was the thing. Let's keep it a buck. They sold us, or so many in the masses, on Meek Mill's story. And his music has yet to follow up on that story in a very detailed way. Like if we look at Conway's verse on The Cow, we're looking for something like that from me. You know what I mean? At least in a moment.
There's
You did
nothing like
live
that.
this, right? You know what I'm saying? If you lived through, I don't know if you saw that documentary that they did about Meek Mill and everything that happened with him and his whole issues with basically Philadelphia Police Department and the judge and all that stuff. He's been
I
going,
read some stuff.
he's been going through it, man.
I read an article. I think that the Washington Post or somebody had done about it, like detailing like the litany of things that he had
It's
been through, which
crazy.
had been pretty long and fairly egregious in a lot of the
It's
circumstances.
been
Yes.
very long. It started when he was really, really young. He was brutalized by the police over there. And, they tried to frame him, all this stuff. I mean, obviously, that affects people in different ways. And maybe he just isn't ready to go there. But it's a shame that it took a documentary for me to be able to find those things out in detail when he's an artist and an MC and all of that. But,
Got
mate.
talent, Mike. It's not like he's not gifted.
He's got it. So he's got talent. But yeah, he just hasn't been able to execute on his talent. And maybe those things have affected him to the point where, he just doesn't want to talk about it. And that's fair
So
too.
let's go to Philly Cats rapping fast again, and you probably don't remember this, Mike. This is some true head stuff. Like Beans talked about how for the becoming, and like somewhere between the process after making the reason, he made the truth, and he made the reason.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere in between that time, Mike, he started doing what Jay and Big did. He stopped writing his rhymes, and when you listen to him on the Becoming, it's the best he's ever sound because he slowed down a little bit and his flow is ridiculously sick. But because he has a downshift gear now, it makes the speed up sound so much better. So
Mm-hmm.
you get records where you can tell that he's freaked the style and the results are glorious, like Feel It in the Air. That's not a record that Beans delivery wise could make on his first two projects because of how he would punch the mic.
That makes sense.
When he stopped writing, there's an article, it's in the source or Double XL. He's like, yo, when I stopped writing, my flow got much sicker. You hear it on the Becoming, but you still hear the same guy that can punch the mic, like on One Shot Deal. You know what I'm saying? Like when you have that, it's not like it's leaving you or going anywhere. So you need to do other shit. Beans understood that on the third album, and that album, Mike, is his best album.
TJ brings up "Where Have You Been" by Jay-Z and Beans. Very personal song. Yes, we've talked about this in the other show. We talked about this in the other show that I think Beans, based on being in the situation that he's in or was in rather at Rockefeller, he did an incredible job coming out with nearly classic material because at the end of the day, nobody was going to get the best beats because Jay had to sign off on them. And it's what it is. Like, I don't think there's any great MC that's been in a situation where you have another great MC who has to sign off on every track that you're about to receive. You know what I'm saying? And so even with that handicap, which I would call it, Beans was able to put forth some incredible material. And I can only imagine if his situation were different and he were able to get beats that weren't signed off by a MC that's in his prime trying to create his legacy,
No, Mike. That's what I'm saying. Is like those are the first two albums where he's under Jay's thumb like that.
Mm-hmm.
He had Becoming on his own. I think Dame made
that was Dame. Yeah, that wasn't on Rockefeller, right? Yeah,
that wasn't on Rockefeller, Mike. That was clearly his best project. And go listen to the production on the Becoming,
it's better.
As opposed to the first two albums. You can hear that the beats are clearly Mike. The album starts off with "Feeling in the Air." That's one of the best beats he's ever rapped on.
Yeah, you're right.
Like as soon as it comes on, you're like, oh, they gave Beans some heat.
Yeah, exactly.
Like before that, Mike, I mean, it's like most of the reason you was listening to Beans on the first two albums was for Beans. Like them beats wasn't like that. I think "Stop Chill" by Buckwild was probably the best beat he had rapped over, album wise by then. Overall, maybe "In the Club" with Timberland, that beat was slapping.
You know who got some heat too, and we need to speak on him too, man. Freeway got some heat for Philadelphia Freeway, and he's another Philly MC that he had a very flashy style, but he was able to actually bring it in and take you there. You know what I mean?
I thought the best beat on that album though came from a West Coast cat. That's All My Life. Bink did that.
That's the dope beat. But I mean, What We Do Is Wrong is the best beat on there. And you know what? Again, that nigga Freeway was rapping like his life depended on it, and he was giving you everything. See, I think Freeway might be a better comparison because with the flow style that Meek Mill's going for, that rapid flow, you telling me you can't give me a verse like Freeway gave on What We Do Is Wrong?
Hold on, Mike. That's what, okay. So let's go to the depth right quick. Like Freeway said, probably more on that verse than we've heard from Meek in a few albums.
That's real.
That's real.
That's real.
And here's the reality of the matter: is like Jay and Beans like sewed that song up wonderfully for him, but you feel free.
Free came with that shit, man. Free it's has like, by far the best verse on that song. Really about,
like Mike, you be feeling like no, he gonna go rob somebody for real. Like y'all pay that man.
Yeah. Catch a nigga sleeping while he out in the open, and I'm gonna get him. We gotta raise our kids while we live and make $1 million from the niggas out of prison. Ah, yeah, he killed it, man. Everything is in there.
Nigga talk reckless and I hit him with the smithing.
And I never snitch and I'm a rider. If my kids hungry, stack the dishes out your kitchen. Yeah, he took it there.
Until they pick me out of lineup.
Stylistically, with this rapid flow that Meek is going for, there's no reason, if he's a dope MC and everything that he's been through, he can't give us nothing like that. I'm sorry. I mean...
No, Mike, I mean, at this point, because how old is he? Because we brought up Drake's age and relevancy to, and how long he had been in the game and relevancy to the subject matter too. And it's like, Mike, at this point, you know, you have blueprints for growth as an artist, Mike. You don't even got to go to Jay and Nas. Look at how Lil Wayne has grown as an artist.
Yeah.
I keep trying to tell people the dude that sung like Bling Bling and The Block Is Hot, like those records are dope. That's not the same guy.
Meek Mill's 34 years old.
The same age as Drake.
Yeah. So at this point, this is who he is as an artist. I think Championship is probably his peak. Again, nobody wants to hear about expensive, basically expensive problems. What do you call it? Expensive...
expensive pain.
Pain, yeah.
I mean, Mike, which is one of the... Okay, so you want to know what's funny about this album is that, like, the two songs where he actually gets in depth are the two best songs, in my opinion, and that's Expensive Pain.
Mm-hmm.
And the last actual record that's not a bonus track, Halo, Mike. Halo is the best song on this album, and guess what it is? It's the most in-depth and personal and honest record on here.
Because this is my thing. I don't understand why Meek is going for bangers because he's never been that person to give us bangers. Like, you want to be in the clubs, but it's like, that's not what you're... You know what I mean? Like,
Mike, Halo, the record Halo is evidence that he can get personal and craft a dope record while doing it and slow his flow down and change it up a little bit, Mike, because that was the first time I heard the flow switch up really on the album too, was the last record with Halo. I was like, up, he stopped right there. He did a little stutter step on the mic. I'm like, okay.
Rodriguez said Blue Note is fire. What do you think about that song? The song with Lil Uzi.
It's one of the better records on there. It is. Yeah, Blue Notes is one of the better records on there, but also too, it's like the territory is kind of hashed. You know what I'm saying? Like, how many times are you going to talk about like what you do when you're out in the club, like every night? And then it brings in the fact it's like, okay, so like you do your social activism in the day, and then like thugging and clubbing and wilding and misogyny at night. It's like, what are we doing?
The Terminator, what's up? He said, "Yo, Mike, cool." Terminator says Meek is an album of the year contender. Why do you think that? I don't think that this is an album of the year contender. Alfonso Howard says Meek is not on Freeway's level and never will be.
Fascinating stuff.
Philadelphia Freeway is better than any Meek Mill album. I know some people are just not getting in the room, but yeah, I don't...
The first 5-6 records on Philadelphia Freeway are better than all of Meek's albums. Like those first 5-6 songs. Flip Side, what We Do, the free intro, all my life. Like, yeah, just that.
I don't think that... Where do you think that Meek fares in his class? Like, I guess his class is Big Crit. Let's just say A$AP Ferg, A$AP Rocky, Big Sean. Yeah. Yeah. He is. I think the real conversation is Meek Mill and Wale, honestly, because I think both of them, both of them come from that camp, that Rick Ross camp, I guess, you know what I'm saying, because they both are with other people. Go ahead.
I don't know. I mean to cut you off. I want to say something, like, because of how both of their careers has gone. and how his has gone, like in spite of theirs, like did we think too much of them because of Ross?
I think Wale had a lot of opportunities, man. Wale was with Mark Ronson first,
No,
first
no, I
rapper to
get
do a
that, but did we
song with.
think too much of them off the strength of Ross?
Possibly. I don't, but see, I don't associate Wale with Ross like that. Meek, I do. And you know
Neither
what?
does
T.I. had
neither.
Meek first.
Hey, look. Neither does you say Wale doesn't associate himself with Ross? Well, he
I,
needs to
yeah.
because he made his best album under Ross's tutelage. So like he needs to be. Miami Nights is his best album, Mike.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think Wale does. I just never associated Wale with Ross. Maybe because they don't work together like
Stylistically,
that.
not
Yeah.
stylistically. No, I mean, but they're on stuff together. Like I mean, trap with Thug that way.
Yeah.
Like no. Him and Wale do records together.
I don't know, man. It's just something about Wale. I don't know if it's just the era that he is in and trying to mesh in with the era that he's in, but he doesn't sound like he fits on a lot of collaborations that he jumps on. Now, I will give Meek that. Meek does better collaborations with people of his era than Wale does. It has
Okay,
to
so
be like some slow down, mellow stuff for Wale.
you know what I thought about? I thought about Common when I thought about Wale when you said the guest appearances. It's just hard for him to fit in with what a lot of these guys are talking about and doing on the song. Like that's why I always bring up Trap. It's one of those few times because he's on there with Ross and Thug, but he doesn't do what they do. He does what he does and sticks to his guns, and he flips it the right way and gets creative with it. And so that was one of those moments where I'm like, oh no, you can get on the track with them and like still shine, like because he's got talent. It's there.
Yeah. What did you think about the No Hands verse when he was on that?
The No Hands verse is what actually made me a fan of his, Mike.
Really?
Yeah, I
Okay.
thought his verse on No Hands, I was like, I didn't know he had that in him at all. And so when he did that, like he showed me something. And even though the beat you could say has a little bit of a DC-ish, go-go-ish feel, like not enough, you know what I'm saying, that I was
Right.
expecting him to rock it like that. And that's what I mean. He's got gifts, like he can get on a song with Waka and get on a song with Thug and Ross and shine on those records. So like he's got gifts and talent. And so
He's
we haven't
better.
seen with both of these guys, we haven't seen their actual full talents come to fruition, and that's why I bring up Ross and saying, hey, did we maybe overstate them because of Ross's strength and hand and stake in the game, and just the quality of production that comes with like have you know what I mean? It's Ross, so you're
No,
like,
I
man,
think
these
you're
dudes
right.
about to be fire that these dudes about to get.
I think you're right. Rodriguez says Wale's mixtapes are fire. Yeah, I think Wale does a better job of making things internally, and where Meek doesn't do that, and Meek does a better job of going out there featuring on other people's things in ways that Wale doesn't do that. When I see Meek on when he got on Flex and did that freestyle not too long after back to back and all that, and he was killing it. And that's the other thing I don't understand about Meek either, man. Like, how is that your response to back to back? You're the battle rapper. And again, that was another letdown. It's just been so many different letdowns.
So Mike, how many MCs has he been in a battle with in the game outside of Drake?
No, it's real. K.
Okay,
Thompson
so
says Ambition is better than any of Meek's albums.
that's
So
what I
I mean,
that's what I meant. Not Miami Nights. Miami Nights is a song off Ambition.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
That's what I meant.
So
Miami Nights is like the second song on
I
there.
think
Yeah.
everybody in this chat seems to be on the same page that all of Meek's peers have superior work.
No, Mike, I want to speak to something right quick. And
Mm-hmm.
this is very, very real. And this is what I mean about practice and doing the work. And that's why I brought up, well, who is he battled? Because he came into this game being known as a battle rapper from the streets of Philly. So that's a lot of cred. When people are talking about you're the best battle rapper in Philly,
Mm-hmm.
like that is high praise, Mike, in this craft you've seen. That's high
Battle
praise in the
City.
craft you've seen. And at a young age being that guy, I want you to understand that at his age, people thought higher of him than they did of Thought and Siegel at those respective ages, who were, in my opinion, clearly the two greatest MCs to come out of that city. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so listen to what I'm about to say. And here's what people have to understand. You can be the nicest dude on the corner of any city. It does not mean anything if you do not go into the booth and execute an album. Nas was the best MC in the largest hood in America. It means nothing if he doesn't make Illmatic. You feel
No,
what
no,
I'm
that's
saying?
right.
And so, like, what some people need to understand and come to grips with is all that battle tested shit in the street live. That shit don't serve you as well in the booth in terms of making an album and making a official battle rap song on a major label industry record. It's not the same shit as battling on the corner.
Right.
I can just rap nonstop for 7 minutes and fade you on the corner. That shit not gonna work.
Well,
On
you
this
know what?
level.
It's like going out there, playing in the park. You know what I'm saying? When a few people are watching and being out there in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. It's different.
Right. Okay, how about this? You remember when KD went to Rucker?
Yeah.
KD took like 21 3-pointers that game. He would never do that with money on the line. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He would never take that many chances or that many shots from three. Like, did he play like that against Milwaukee?
No.
You know what I'm saying?
No, it's different. It's different.
He was pretty much down his other two best players, and still he didn't go in Rucker Park mode because he understands the level and the stakes of the game and the way the game got to be played is different. And if he gonna take 21 threes, he need to make 18 of them for that to be okay.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You know what? I think when looking back at the young Meek Mill, it kind of reminds me of like in Atlanta what young Ti looked like when nobody was watching, right? But when the cameras came on and when it was time to make an album, when it was time to do trap music, and when I say young Ti, I'm talking about after I'm serious, right? When he was in the streets. But when it was time to make an album, he delivered. And
Also too, not only did he not deliver, people forget this. After I'm Serious, there were a lot of artists down here that were bigger than Tip that he was on the circuit with and doing songs with. Young Guns were bigger than him. Bone Crusher was bigger than him. Like
everybody. Killer Mike was bigger.
Right. Almost everybody who you heard Tip with on before trap music was bigger than Tip.
Pastor Troy was bigger. Everybody was bigger.
And trap music happened, that was over.
Yeah,
guess what? You know what he did?
He changed the landscape.
He went in the booth, made an album. He made a great album. That's why I be telling people the catalog is the biggest thing in the bag because making a classic rap album will change your life forever.
But not only did he make a great album, he had like those mixtapes that were building up to it. Those In the Streets Volume 1, In the Streets Volume 2. He didn't go in there with trap music and sit there and rely on how highly acclaimed his mixtapes were. He made sure that the album was better than the mixtapes. And I think that, that's something that Meek has yet to do. Because his Dream Chaser mixtapes still are his calling card.
You're right. No, you're right.
Let's switch subjects, though. So, what are we giving this album out of a 5?
And my immediate thoughts were a 3. I'm gonna listen to it again. I'm out of town, and so I've been flowing a little bit. So I had to listen to it a little compartmentalized, and then go back and listen again and skip through some stuff to kind of like make sure I was hearing what I was hearing. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna give it that third listen. But right now I'm leaning on 3.
I'm looking at a 3 too.